There is a moment in every man's life, often cloaked in silence, where something extraordinary is being prepared for him. He cannot see it, he cannot feel it, he may not even believe it, but in that moment, hidden behind trials, distractions, and difficulties, something vast is quietly taking shape. When God is about to give you something big, he often does not send a whisper in advance. He does not announce his blessings with trumpets. No, he wraps them in delay, in resistance, in pressure. And only the man with eyes to see and the heart to endure will claim what is already his by divine design. The greatest truths of life are not found on the surface. They are buried deep within the soul's journey. The men who reach the mountaintop are the ones who kept climbing when the path disappeared beneath their feet. When God is preparing to bless you with something so large, so transformative, that it will redefine who you are and what you can do, he must first prepare you. He must strengthen the container before he pours the blessing, because what good is an ocean of opportunity if your character is still a leaky cup? So if you feel pressed from every side, if it seems like your efforts are going unnoticed, like doors are slamming instead of opening, if you're walking through a chapter of confusion and silence, then take heart. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. You are not being rejected. You are being refined. You see, God doesn't hand out greatness like a lottery ticket. No, he deposits it in pieces, and he watches what you do with each one. He watches how you handle delay, disappointment, isolation. He observes how you respond when people overlook you, when recognition doesn't come, when your reward seems far off in the distance. Because if you cannot master yourself in the shadows, you will collapse under the light. And there is nothing more tragic than a man who touches greatness before he is ready to carry it. There is a law of life, invisible but absolute, that no man can rise above the strength of his own faith and persistence. If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small, not because you're weak, but because you stopped before the harvest. When you plant seeds, the first thing that happens is nothing. No applause, no fruit, just waiting, and then resistance. The ground must break. The seed must fight through dirt. It must grow through the struggle. Only after that will the green shoot rise to meet the sun, and so it is with you. When God is about to give you something big, he hides the gift in difficulty. He covers the prize with a test. He whispers, "Can you hold the vision when no one else can see it?" If your answer is yes, if you can walk with unshakable faith, then the floodgates will open in due time, and not a moment before. The man who says, "Why is this happening to me?" will remain stuck in his circumstances. But the man who says, "What is this trying to make of me?" is already halfway to greatness, for every trial is not a trap, it is a tool. It is sharpening you, molding you, forging you into the kind of person who can receive and sustain the blessing. We've been taught to chase after results, but the wise man chases after alignment. He knows that when he is in alignment with the higher laws, when his thoughts are dominated by faith, his actions by discipline, and his heart by purpose, then success must follow as surely as the sun follows the night. You do not need to force open doors that God has already ordained for you. You only need to become the kind of man who can walk through them. This is why so many fail just before the miracle. They think the delay means denial. They see the storm and forget the promise. But the storm is not sent to destroy you. It is sent to define you. It is sent to shake loose what no longer serves you, to strip away the false identities, to burn away the pride, the fear, the doubt. So only the purest, strongest version of you remains. That is the man God can trust with something big. It is often said that the darkest hour is just before dawn, but what they forget to tell you is that the darkness itself is a test. Will you keep going when you can't see the path? Will you believe when there is no visible evidence? Will you work like the blessing is already yours, even when you feel forgotten? That is the hour where men are made, because God is not just interested in giving you something big. He is interested in who you become in the process. You may think you're waiting for the blessing, but the truth is, the blessing is waiting for you to become the version of yourself who is worthy of it. So when things feel hardest, when the weight of the world sits on your chest, when nothing makes sense and quitting seems logical, remember this: that pressure is not punishment, it is a signal that expansion is near, that you are on the edge of a breakthrough, that heaven is rearranging your life to make room for more. But God will not deliver a miracle to a man who doubts himself, nor to a man who does not persist. So many start with passion and end in defeat because they never understood this one truth. Faith is not a feeling, it is a decision. It is showing up regardless. It is taking another step when every part of you wants to lie down. It is choosing to believe that something bigger is coming, not because you see it, but because you know who promised it. Look around you. Every great achievement, every business empire, every invention, every towering figure of history, you know what they all have in common. They were all preceded by seasons of doubt, of waiting, of hardship, but they did not surrender to their environment. They became bigger than it, they rose above it, they became the thing they were seeking. So I say this to you: when the walls close in, expand. When the doors slam, build your own. When the world tells you not yet, smile and keep going, because that is the posture of a man who knows that God is setting him up for something extraordinary. The time you are in right now is not meant to break you. It is meant to break the shell that's hiding your true strength, and every obstacle you face is not evidence that God has forgotten you. It's evidence that he's getting ready to promote you. So hold the line, stand in faith, speak life over your dreams, show up like the opportunity is already yours, because God doesn't need perfect people. He needs prepared ones. And if you refuse to give up, if you refuse to bend under the pressure, if you dare to keep walking with your eyes on the vision, then I promise you, what's coming will make sense of everything that didn't. God never wastes pain, he never delays without purpose, and he never lets faith go unrewarded. Your time is coming, and when it does, you'll look back and realize this was the moment you were forged. This was the moment the heavens took note. Not when you succeeded, but when you refused to stop. And that is when God gives you something big. Most people only praise God when they see the blessing. But the ones who truly rise, they praise him before it arrives. They give thanks in the valley. They lift their voice in the drought, because they understand this. Gratitude is not a response, it's a magnet. It tells the universe you're ready. It signals to heaven, I trust you enough to act as if it's already done. You must begin to live in the vibration of what you desire before it shows up. Speak like you already have it. Walk like it's already yours. Move like the stage is being built for your arrival, because it is. God moves on behalf of those who move in faith, and that faith isn't passive. It is aggressive, persistent, unshakable. It demands that you become the outcome, even while everything in the natural world contradicts it. The mistake most men make is believing they must see it to believe it, but the ones who shape history do the opposite. They believe it so deeply, so completely, that the world bends to match their vision. Their belief becomes a force. It draws people, resources, opportunities that weren't even visible before. Why? Because the mind backed by faith is the most powerful instrument on earth. So ask yourself, how would you act today if you knew for certain that in 90 days your life would change forever? How would you walk into that room? How would you speak to yourself? What risks would you finally take? What discipline would you embrace? What excuses would you eliminate? When God is about to give you something big, he often strips away your comfort first. He removes the fallback options. He pushes you to a place where all you have left is obedience. All you have left is a choice, trust or retreat, and in that crucible of decision, your destiny is forged. The truth is, the blessing you want is not on the other side of more information. It's on the other side of execution. You don't need another motivational quote. You need movement. You need to wake up and behave like the man who has already received what he prayed for, not next week, not next year, today. Because the moment you start living like it's real, God starts aligning the world to make it real. What you tolerate now is what you invite into your future. If you tolerate laziness, you're saying you're not ready. If you tolerate small thinking, toxic company, procrastination, you're communicating that you don't yet believe you're worthy of the size of blessing God has for you. And make no mistake, God's plan is always bigger than your logic. It rarely fits inside your timeline, your budget, or your expectations, but that's because it's not limited by them. His plan is designed to stretch you, to draw out the version of yourself that only pressure can produce. So don't ask for a smaller mountain. Ask for stronger legs. Don't pray for ease. Pray for endurance. Because the faster you grow, the faster you'll arrive. And once you start moving in alignment, you'll realize that delay is not a denial. It's a divine recalibration, a test of your willingness to walk by vision, not by sight. Do you know what separates the man who watches others succeed from the man who writes his own legacy? It's not talent, it's not connections, it's not luck. It's the ability to keep showing up when there's no applause. It's the decision to stay committed when every part of you wants to check out. It's the man who keeps building as if the promise is real. Because eventually it becomes real. Opportunity doesn't show up and then prepare you. It shows up when you've already prepared. So what are you doing in the shadows right now that proves you're ready for the spotlight? What habits are you mastering? What thoughts are you disciplining? What sacrifices are you making? Not for what you have, but for what's coming. You cannot have big blessings with small standards. You must expand. You must rise. You must be willing to do the work in silence, in solitude, in discomfort. And while the world sleeps, you're awake, planting seeds, shaping vision, forging identity, because soon the world will see the harvest. But you'll know, it didn't begin there. It began in moments like this, when no one was clapping, when doubt whispered louder than hope, when you had every reason to quit but one reason to continue, you believed. And that belief, if protected, if fed, if held onto with tenacity, will carry you through storms that would have broken lesser men. Understand this, the power that created worlds is not distant from you. It lives within you. But it only activates when you act. You were not designed to wait for the perfect moment. You were created to command the moment, to speak life where others speak fear, to move when others freeze, to believe when others doubt. Most people are waiting for permission, but the ones who receive the big blessings are the ones who give themselves permission. They stop asking, "Am I ready?" and they start declaring, "I was made for this." They stop consulting their past and start consulting their vision. Because the past will tell you you're not enough, the vision will tell you that you're more than enough. It will demand that you rise into it. You can't carry both faith and fear into your future. One must bow to the other. And if you let fear win, even in small decisions, even in daily habits, it becomes a wall. But if you choose faith again and again, in every moment, in every test, then faith becomes your floor, your foundation, your identity. And that is when things begin to shift. Doors begin to open without warning. People you never expected show up to help you. Ideas arrive in the night. Energy floods your bones. Why? Because the universe and the God who governs it responds to boldness, to decisiveness, to the man who says, "I may not see it yet, but I know it's mine." There is no such thing as luck in the life of a man who walks in purpose. There is only alignment. And the more you step into alignment, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, the more forcefully your destiny accelerates. So if you feel tired, if you feel like nothing's moving, if you feel overlooked, underused, or unappreciated, pause. Not to quit, not to question, but to remember. Remember what you're carrying. Remember who gave you the vision. Remember why you started. Because vision is the only thing powerful enough to carry you through the valley without losing your fire. Every great calling comes with great resistance. The size of the attack is always proportional to the size of the assignment. So instead of asking why things are hard, start asking, What is this preparing me for? Because pain is a prophecy in disguise. Adversity is not your enemy. It is the escort to your next level. When you begin to live with that awareness, nothing can shake you. Disappointment loses its sting. Delay loses its weight. You stop measuring success by what's visible and start measuring it by obedience, by alignment, by growth. You start showing up differently, you enter rooms differently, you speak to yourself differently, and eventually people will ask you what changed. They'll ask what secret you found, what book you read, what strategy you use. And you'll smile because you'll know it wasn't a secret. It was a decision to believe that what God placed inside you was bigger than the circumstances outside you. You started building when no one believed. You stayed disciplined when no one was watching. You honored the vision when it looked like it was falling apart. And that is the kind of faith that pulls down miracles, not wishful thinking, not lukewarm effort, but consistent, relentless, intentional action, backed by belief. If you want to be trusted with more, you must manage the little you have like it's already much. Manage your time like your destiny depends on it, because it does. Manage your words like they're building your tomorrow, because they are. Manage your attitude like heaven is watching, because it is. You are not just here to survive, you are here to steward the promise, to multiply the talent, to become the man who turns pressure into purpose and delay into destiny. And when you steward well what seems small, you prove to God and to life itself that you can be entrusted with the weight of something greater. Too many men want the platform but refuse the preparation. They want the reward but resist the responsibility. But greatness is not something you are given. It's something you grow into, and growth requires friction. It requires pruning. It requires a standard so high, so unrelenting, that mediocrity can no longer breathe in your presence. You were not designed for average. That's why it never feels right. That's why your soul stirs when you see others rise, not out of jealousy, but because it reminds you of who you are. It echoes something ancient inside you that says, I was born for more. And you were. But more doesn't arrive on a silver platter. It arrives in the form of work, of choice, of consistent self-command. The man who commands himself will one day command nations, but it begins with the unseen disciplines. Waking up when you said you would, speaking life into your environment when no one else will, saying no to distractions that offer pleasure but steal progress. This is the cost of destiny. This is the investment of greatness. Every time you act from alignment, you're laying a brick. You're building the foundation of a future so solid that no storm can shake it. You're creating a structure that can hold the blessing when it arrives. Because God is not withholding it, He is waiting for you to become someone who won't waste it. And that's what this moment is about. It's not just about pushing harder, it's about pushing smarter. It's about rewiring the way you think about hardship, reframing what it means to be delayed, redefining success as who you are becoming, not just what you're producing. Because when your identity is grounded in purpose, your momentum becomes unstoppable. Stop asking for the timeline, ask for the wisdom. Ask for the endurance. Ask for the clarity to recognize divine timing when it shows up, because it never looks like you expect. It comes dressed in responsibility, in risk, in decisions that will stretch you beyond the version of yourself that started this journey. And understand this, you do not need the approval of others to walk in your assignment. You don't need applause. You don't need consensus. What you need is resolve, steel in your spine, fire in your gut. A conviction so strong that even in silence you still build. Even in darkness you still believe. Even in failure you still move forward. Because delay is not a detour, it's divine design. And the more violently the wind blows, the more certain you can be that you're carrying something worth protecting. Trees that grow in calm air don't grow deep roots, but the ones that endure storms become unmovable. You are becoming unmovable. You are not just chasing a dream. You are becoming the dream. You are evolving into the kind of man who doesn't fold under pressure, who doesn't shrink in doubt, who doesn't back away from the weight of destiny. You stand in it, you grow in it, you rise through it, and if you can rise through this season, this pain, this quiet struggle, then nothing can stop what's on the way, and when nothing can stop what's on the way, you begin to carry yourself differently, not with arrogance, but with assurance. Assurance not in your own strength alone, but in the knowledge that something greater is backing you, that heaven itself is invested in your success, and all it's waiting for is your consistency, that divine favor follows obedience, not intention. Not talk, not talent, but obedience, the kind that shows up on hard days and keeps building, keeps refining, keeps believing. Because the moment you stop reacting to circumstances and start responding from vision, you change the game. You're no longer at the mercy of what happens around you. You begin to dictate what happens within you. That's when power shows up. That's when peace moves in. That's when the atmosphere around you bends to the authority you've established inside. Too many men live from reaction. They're tossed by news, by gossip, by emotions. But the man who will carry something big, he becomes centered, grounded, focused. He's not moved by noise because he's rooted in truth. And the truth is this: you are not waiting on God. God is waiting on you, waiting for you to believe him enough to start behaving like it's already done. The preparation you're in right now is not punishment. It's protection, it's process, and if you skip it, you forfeit the strength, the wisdom, the identity you'll need to sustain the blessing when it arrives, because a big breakthrough without deep character is a setup for collapse. But when your roots are deep, you can carry more, you can become more, and nothing the enemy throws at you will be enough to take you out. Don't confuse quiet with absence. Just because it feels like nothing's happening doesn't mean nothing is moving. God does his best work in silence. Destiny grows underground first. Seeds don't make noise, but they're pushing through the soil, they're stretching, they're breaking, and soon what's been hidden will become visible. But only to the one who stayed in the dirt, who stayed in process, who didn't abandon the garden before the fruit arrived. You must get comfortable being overlooked, being underestimated, being told to be realistic. Because that is exactly how destiny grows best, when it's not being watched, when it's not being applauded, when it's allowed to take root without interference from people who couldn't carry what you're called to carry anyway. You're not called to be understood. You're called to be aligned. You're not here to make people comfortable. You're here to make heaven move, and that takes a certain kind of man, a man who's done waiting to feel ready, a man who's done asking for permission, a man who's done bowing to fear disguised as logic. The most powerful shift you'll ever make is deciding to live like the promise is already yours, not when the money comes, not when the crowd shows up, but now, today, when it's still hard, when it still looks impossible, when every voice says it won't work. That's the moment where champions are made, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows where decisions are forged in fire. Keep your fire lit, even when the wind howls, even when the world says quit, because something big is coming, and what's coming is not just for you. It's coming through you. You are the vessel, you are the bridge. You are the answer to a problem someone else hasn't solved yet, but to become that answer, you must endure the question, you must face the silence, you must pass the test.